What's up, guys? I am
What's
Tyler
up?
Blake. I am here with Chad and James, and this is episode number 2 of the Wheelchair Bodybuilding Podcast. What's up?
What's up? What's up?
How's that going?
So we were talking before the podcast. I guess we'll use these first couple episodes to go into a couple stories. So whoever wants to go into, like, not your whole life story, but just your beginnings. If you're comfortable talking about how'd you get into a wheelchair, what happened, you can go into that story. And how did you get into bodybuilding?
Well, I'll go if that's all right. Of course, I've been bodybuilding since 2000, I guess it was, when I started my journey with bodybuilding. And then a friend of mine taught me into doing, bodybuilding in 2000. And I had bulked up from like 160 pounds, which is naturally my normal weight. And I'm about 6'1". So yeah, I was a beanpole. So he talked me into doing a show. I bulked up to 240, cut down to 190 in the heavyweight. I was the smallest guy there. I did take 9 out of 18 competitors, but it was because I was so shredded. But at that point, I knew that my enthusiasm far outweighed my genetic potential. So I was like, I'll keep lifting, but I wanted to be a pilot, and I tackled that, still lifting. Then I wanted to start riding motocross, which was my demise for my spinal cord injury. It was March 27, 2005. It was a burst fracture, attempting to jump a triple. It was horrible. Airlifted to LSU. Had to wait a week for the swelling to go down. Mine was a burst fracture. It like completely broke the T12 into like 142 pieces. It just exploded, and it ripped my spinal cord about 90% in two. And they told me I'd never walk again. I certainly would never lift weights again. So I'm just summing this up real short and sweet, because some people probably already heard my story. Just for the sake of this podcast, I'll keep it short and sweet.
Wait, so what was it? Did you say it was a car accident? What was it?
Motocross.
Okay. I
was trying to jump a big triple, about 90 feet. Well, no, it was actually about 110 feet long, and it launched me about 25, 30 feet in the air. So when I came down, I didn't come down on the backside like I should have. I know you've seen these videos, the guys jumping. I was short, so I landed on the apex. And when I did, it snapped, came to a sudden stop, and it just snapped my spine. And being a paramedic, I knew I broke my back. I heard it break. And then when it slung me across through the air, face first to the ground, I tried to get up and my legs wouldn't respond. So I knew, being a paramedic, I knew I had compromised my spinal cord. So they airlifted me to LSU just to confirm my suspicions. And that's in fact what it was. And, I was worried about the spinal cord injury, but by the same token, I knew my firefighter, my career as a firefighter and a paramedic was going to be over. Nobody had to come tell me that. And it was just, man, I was on the dark side of the moon there for a long time. They shipped me back up here to Texarkana to rehab in-house for 92 days before I could even come home. And it was just, I was down in the dumps, man. I was thinking about my wife, my new marriage, my career, all that. And I don't know, man, one day they wheeled me out into the courtyard, and I sat out there for a little bit, and I prayed a little bit. And then all of a sudden I didn't know what direction I was going to go, but I knew whatever I was going to do, it was going to be okay. And then somebody brought me this magazine of these wheelchair bodybuilders. And this was in 2005, and I was like, well, shit, I didn't even know this was a category, I was like,
do you remember who was in the magazines? Who were you seeing in the magazines?
Yeah, it was Victor.
Yep.
I can't remember his last name. It's
yeah, I know who you're talking about though. He was a monster. I've only heard legends about him, and I've seen a few pictures, but Victor was a monster.
Yeah, it was him and some other guys that are no longer competing. But I thought, I can probably hold my own in this weight class. So I started training, 2005, and within 6 short months of my accident, I was on stage. I started training with weights against doctors' advice in my room with dumbbells. And then when they wanted me to do physical therapy with these little rinky-dink rubber bands, I was like, screw this, man. Take me to the gym. And luckily there was one that was joined with the rehabilitation center. So against doctor's advice, during my rehab, I was lifting weights. So I had put all that muscle back on from the waist up, just from muscle memory. And I started competing from there. I did several Dallas shows, got first place. I did Arkansas State Championship in 2007, got first place. And then in 2008, I competed at my first time at nationals, and competed against Nick. Matter of fact, we were both in heavyweight. I got second and Nick took fourth, but he came back with a vengeance.
Nick's a different monster.
Yeah, he was pissed off over that. He came back relentless. So I was kind of ticked off at that situation because I just felt like I should have scored higher. But I think we all probably kind of think that sometimes. But it's at the judge's discretion. It is what it is. You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. So I didn't compete again until 2016, and I got runner-up. 2017, got runner-up. 2018, I got runner-up. And I thought, in 2019, I was going to give it one more try. That was going to be it for me.
This is at nationals?
Correct.
Okay.
I was going to give it one more try in 2019, and that's when they decided to award the complete and the incomplete. And Leonard won the complete and I won the incomplete, and that landed me my pro. So as you guys know, you already know, but for the sake of the audience, I did 4 shows. I did the Dallas last year, and then I turned around and did the Mr. Olympia, and then turned around and did the Arnold, then turned right back around and did the Dallas again. So I did 4 pro shows, just boom, 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 boom. And it took its toll on my body, I'll be honest.
Hold on, Chad. Before you go farther, I just wanted to make it clear to the audience, anybody who doesn't follow wheelchair bodybuilding, sometimes we'll use words like complete and incomplete. And making it simple, it's the higher your injury is on your spine. If you're incomplete, then your injury isn't like that high. If you're complete, then your injury is higher, right? I think that's a fair simple way of putting it.
Yes.
Right. And now if someone is a complete spinal injury, they're less likely to be able to have abs.
Correct.
Right? Some of the guys you see on stage, they're not really able to have abs no matter what they do. Someone who's incomplete, they are able to have abs. So that just for the audience, that's what that terminology means when we bring it up. But go ahead.
Correct. Also, so after all 4 shows, I'm big on getting labs done, being proactive. And I think a lot of, in lieu of what's went on recently in the bodybuilding community, everybody's become a little bit more aware of, hey, we need to be more proactive, with our health. And I went and had labs done. It was about 4 weeks after the show, and my liver wasn't happy. Not the first time it hadn't been happy. But basically, at that point, I come off of everything, creatine, lower my protein. I really try to start taking some liver detox. Something I recently discovered, and this is beneficial for all bodybuilders. There's a couple of supplements that will bring those liver enzymes way down, in just a matter of 30 days. And Tudka is one of them. For the viewers that may not know, I didn't know. I bounced this off Tyler about 2 weeks ago, but there's also, you can get an injectable glutathione.
Glutathione. Yeah. And that's really good for you too. Yeah.
Correct. So I'm also taking that, which, there's no prescription needed for it. It's an IM injection, and it just helps you get your liver enzymes back, because we put our liver through so much with all the supplements, all the food, and you start stacking all that onto your system. And you really, at some point, you need to do a good liver detox. And that's really where I'm at right now. I'm kind of in a holding pattern until I can re-get blood work done and make sure. I'm not going to proceed forward until everything comes back with the green check marks. It's just senseless not to. I know a lot of guys ignore it. They don't care. I've even asked bodybuilders, have you ever had your liver enzymes checked? And they're like, I don't care about that crap. And I'm like, well, you better. I mean, this is your health you're talking about here. Go get the blood work done. Just because you don't go get the blood work done doesn't mean it's out of sight, out of mind. It's still there,
Some people don't want to know.
Well, it's just, I think it's asinine and it's absolutely insane to throw your health to the wind and say, screw it. Nothing is worth dying over. I mean, I love bodybuilding. Don't get me wrong. It's a passion of mine. I have loved it my entire life. And I presume I'll do it as long as my health will allow me to. So, you know, when you do get a bad report from the doctor, it kind of puts a cloud over your head, you know, because I know 99.9% chances are my liver enzymes always come back to normal. You know, and I didn't do my liver any favors in the past. I battled alcoholism for a long time. I've always been transparent about that. That probably resulted in some permanent liver damage. And I was bad addicted to pain pills after my injury. You know, the doctors put me on them, and before long, I was taking a lot more than I probably should have been. And that's a lot of Tylenol on your liver. So as it is, I really have to kind of tread lightly with that, with my liver, because I've put it through hell and back, to be honest. But for me right now, that's where I'm at. I'm in a holding pattern until the blood work can come back. Now I'm still training my ass off. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to ever quit training my ass off. But in order to start my official prep for the Olympia, I'm going to give it about another. I'm going to give myself another 4-week break, and that'll be a total of 8 weeks. And I still have plenty of time. So.
Yep. Well, a lot of people, they don't want to know. I mean, a lot of people, hey, I'm looking better than ever and I'm winning shows, or at least placing really well. So I'm enjoying this roller coaster, and I don't want to know about my health because I know it's probably bad because I'm pushing my body so hard. And so some people go to that place mentally, and that's where they get in trouble.
That's exactly right. There's a right way and a wrong way to do anything.
Yeah. It's an extreme sport with extreme people in it. And that's where hopefully you have a good coach or a good friends or something that reel you in once in a while and smack you, you know? Right.
Well, I think a lot of guys are under the assumption, you know, if they don't continue up the supplement regimen, they're going to lose all their muscle mass. And that's totally not true. You know, back in the days of Arnold and Dorian and all those guys, they talk about, you know, hey, we gave ourselves a break for X amount of time. We didn't just keep rolling till the wheels rolled off. And that's what happens if the bodybuilder just keeps going and going and going. You're going to roll a wheel off, and then that's going to be the end of your bodybuilding career.
Mm-hmm. That can happen a lot faster than what people think. No, for sure.
What's that, James?
I said that can happen pretty fast.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I didn't even realize it, but when I was prepping for the Olympia, all the way through the Olympia prep, my kidneys were in trouble, and I didn't even know it. So after the Olympia, I went and had routine blood work done, and my kidneys were in 3rd stage failure, and obviously baffled. You know, I had asked my doctor, and he said he was pretty sure it was from the lisinopril that I was taking for my blood pressure. I said, well, did I need to cease the bodybuilding, everything that involves that? And he said, no, I don't see why you would at this moment. So he took me off of the lisinopril, and within 2 weeks, my kidneys were back to normal function. And that was from a blood pressure medication.
I remember you telling me about that. Did I send you Stan Efferding's steps on lowering your blood pressure?
I'm sorry?
Did I send you Stan Efferding's steps on how to lower your blood pressure? Because he has very specific things. He has his clients eat and take and blah, blah, blah. And it's like natural ways of lowering it. He's an expert on that stuff. So did I ever send that to you?
No. I mean, I take BP med. All he did, he switched up. He took me off of the lisinopril, and he put me on, I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, it keeps my BP in check. He said my BP is totally hereditary. It runs in my family. It started showing up. It started showing up when I was in my early to mid 30s, and I'm 48 now. So I've been on BP med since I was 33, 34 years old.
I'll send you Stan Efferding's protocol on how he just like naturally brings down blood pressure. And it's just eating certain things and getting a lot of this and a lot of that. And it's something that anybody could do, but he calls it his quick fix kit when it comes to blood pressure. So I'll send that to you.
Cool. Yeah, I'll take a read on it. I'd love to come off of blood pressure medication, but at the same time, I don't want to stroke out either.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need that.
So, I mean, that's where it's at with me right now, man. I worked my ass off to requalify for the Olympia because I didn't get top 5. So, I'm doing the show. I'm confident the blood work will come back fine, and when it does, then I'll proceed full speed ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you this, like an idiot, I didn't take anything for liver support this last time. It's just, there's so many things with the bodybuilding, and it's very easy to overlook one little detail. If you're, because we get consumed with, okay, we got to get these macronutrients in. I got to get this much water in. I got to eat this every 2 hours. You guys know what it's like. It's 24/7. It never stops. I have to get up early, even on my days off, to make sure I'm going to get those 5-6 meals in. I can't sleep till lunch. I'm never going to get my meals in. So
I'd love to sleep till lunch.
So it was just a simple oversight on my part. But I promise you it won't happen again.
And you weren't feeling anything with when your kidneys were that bad? Your body wasn't yelling at you in any way?
Nope. What I asked the doctor about that, and he said they're working overtime to compensate. There's 5 stages of kidney failure. So you reach level 1, level 2, level 3. You never know it. I mean, but when I went back and looked at the pictures at the Olympia, I was really stringy, and I kept wondering why I couldn't get my water balance right. And that's why my muscles weren't retaining fluid properly to get the fullness that I was after. Looking back now, I was like, why was I couldn't get carb loaded. And come to find out, that's what it was. My kidneys were working so hard, my fluid balance was out of balance.
Interesting.
So, yep, absolutely. So it's something I learned at my expense, and maybe it will be beneficial to the viewers. Always get your labs done. I recommend every 6 months. Some people do once a year. But when you're putting your body through the shit we're putting our bodies through, I say every 6 months, because if something pops up from the last 6 months, you're on it. It's early detection. That's the key.
And do it as often as you can afford. Stan Efferding, I'm a huge fan of him. He's the coach of the strongest man to ever live, right? The mountain from Game of Thrones. He deadlifted 1,110 pounds, I believe. But anyway, Stan Efferding's a freaking genius. And he's got the money to do this, but he was doing blood work every week. I'm pretty sure he said he would change a little thing about his diet, and then he'd go and do a blood test. He'd change a little thing about his water, his sleep, whatever. He'd go do another blood test. So he was doing blood tests every week just to run experiments on his body and see what made his liver happy and what made his kidneys happy and what made his cholesterol go down. And so he's a freaking genius now because he was able to do that. But when it comes to anybody watching this who's a bodybuilder, you get your blood work as much as you can afford. You can never be over-informed.
No. And the one thing I think everybody should know is, if you're coming off of a show and you have lab work done and you haven't given your body time to renormalize, some of your markers are going to be out of whack. They may not be way out. They may not be way out of whack, but it's going to be out of kilter for sure.
Yeah, give it a good 3-4 weeks, something like that. 3, 4, 5 weeks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And see, I was only at the 3rd week mark, and I did 4 shows back to back to back to back. So my body was like, "Hey, brother, we need a break over here." Mm-hmm. So that's probably what led up to mine being as high as they were, is the fact that I did 4 shows. I was pretty much in pre-contest mode for 365 days.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And that takes its toll on you. So, but you live and you learn.
Mm-hmm. So James, did you want to tell any part of your beginning story of what happened with putting you in a wheelchair, or how'd you get into bodybuilding?
Well, I'll tell you, basically, I got in a wheelchair. May 2010, it was a Memorial Day weekend, or that Friday night of it. Went over to a friend's house, and of course, we were drinking, playing beer pong and all that fun stuff. And ex-girlfriend of mine at the time pissed me off. So I just started drinking way more. So friends tried to take my keys away from me, but I was a little smart drunk. At the time, I knew I had a hide key in my truck and sat there and decided to get in my truck and go home. Well, I didn't make it home. I sat there and what was it? That's probably 3-4 miles from home, cruising the dirt roads here in Oklahoma. And the dirt roads, the intersections, one side will be flat, but the other side will have a little hump in it. Well, I was coming to the hump part and I jumped my truck. I was doing 110, and I guess I smoked a corner post in the middle of a field. So I had a long bed pickup, and I was like flipping through the tailgate. Like they said I flipped. They estimated at least 6 times. Hit the top of a big gooseneck trailer, then hit the top of a horse trailer, which those are high up in the air anyway. And then I landed upside down up in my truck. I guess I wrecked probably about 20 yards from people's house, and they didn't hear any of that.
Wow.
Like at all. Like me knocking trees down, wrapping cattle panel around my truck, and they didn't hear none of it. But I wrecked it. They said I wrecked probably about 2:00 in the morning, and I laid in my truck until 6 in the morning before anybody found me. And then it took them an hour and a half to get me out of my truck.
Were you unconscious?
Yeah, I don't remember any of it. And the last thing I remember, I was talking to my friend on the phone, and I said, I'm off here, and I just hung up the phone. And that's the last thing I remember. And then I wrecked that, say that it'd be like Saturday morning, 2:00 in the morning type thing. But I woke up that following Wednesday in the hospital, in pain, not knowing what the hell happened. And then doctors come, or was it physical therapist came in. I will never forget it. He sat there. He was new. He was like, a trainee or, an apprentice type thing. And he came in, looked at me and goes, "You're never going to walk again." Turned around and walked right back out. Made everybody leave my room to tell me that. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, that's what you do? You just tell people that and leave?
Yeah, they don't explain anything. They don't sugarcoat it.
No, doesn't explain anything. But so I broke.
I think about that a lot, and I'm a personal trainer. I got clients in all different career fields, right? So I talk to them about this whenever I train a nurse or sometimes a doctor or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, how often is the doctor that's doing the surgeries and saving your life? They are absolutely fucking brilliant, right? They know how to reattach your whole body, but because they're so brilliant in one thing, they lack another thing, And so that doctor, I'm sure, was fucking brilliant, and he saved your life. But he has zero social skills, so he is not equipped to tell you that you're never going to walk again. Send the nurse in to say that, right? If you want to know, okay, clinically what's going on, like what part of my spine is messed up, and now send the doctor in, and he'll explain anatomically what happened, right?
Right.
But when it comes to telling you the emotional news, have the damn nurse tell you that if she's more socially skilled. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
but see, it's like mine was a physical therapist that came in, and like he was new, like he was still going to school. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Then the doctor came in and explained to me what I broke. See, I shattered my T10, 11, and 12 vertebrae. Like they just kind of exploded. Then, so I got like 2 plates and 8 rods holding me together. But my break is considered an incomplete break because it just kind of folded my spinal cord over like a straw. But me being laid up in my truck for 6 hours, it makes me a complete, but I'm diagnosed as an incomplete. It's kind of weird. But what was it? I got most of my hip flexors back, pretty much. That's about as far down as I go, but I can't like get up on my own type of thing. I could use leg braces and walk around with those. Walk around like a robot, I can hike my leg up and over and all that. But so after the wreck and everything, I just kind of like I didn't take any antidepressants or any pain pills or anything. I just decided to go back to drinking for the next 5 years of it. So they're just kind of mask everything. And then one day the gym up here, they were kind of specializing in powerlifting, and I found Special Olympic or Paralympics, and they were looking for there was openings for wheelchair or bench press and everything. I was like, I can do that. I used to lift in high school. That'd give me something to do and everything. But the bar started tearing up my shoulders and everything. Like I was hurting, and then I just kind of And I found Nick's one of Nick's videos on YouTube, and he's like, wheelchair bodybuilding, that looks like fun, you know. So I just kind of dedicated myself to that. I quit drinking, I quit smoking, I quit everything. Really sober. I've been sober for almost 7 years now. No drinking, none of it. And so I did my first show in 2016 at Battle of Texas. Yeah, that was fun. Did not know I had to did my diet by myself and everything. Tried to figure all that out, and went down to Texas and did my first show. That show was huge, or at least I thought it was huge, you know. But and what's funny was that I had to be the first one to go up on stage to start the show. So I was like, I was the only wheelchair competitor there. So like, whatever. I had no idea what I was doing. And so whenever I rolled out there to do my mandatories, so, you know, the quarter turn to the right, and I do the front double and all that. And he says, quarter turn to the right. And I go to spin to my left. And then I'm like, I turn back around and look at the judge and go, am I right or you're right? So that's always a funny story I'll always remember. But then after 16, I was going to go compete at nationals in 17. And I got 3 weeks. I was dealing with pressure sores at the time. I didn't realize I didn't realize I had an infection I had an infection in my bone. It was called osteomyelitis. What it was basically deteriorating my bone in my leg. Is basically where my coccyx and everything, but you know, my like left butt cheek pretty much from my old chair because it was bent, the axle in it, and I didn't know. And I got 3 weeks out from the show at nationals, had like everything booked up, ready to go. And I got like deathly sick. I was in the hospital. I had to cut the show or, you know, stop everything. I was in the hospital for like 3 weeks. I hooked up to IVs and everything like that. Had a PICC line in my arm for like 16 weeks. And that was rough. And then got better. Had muscle flap surgery done. And what that is, it basically cut out the infection and everything and cut your muscle, cut out all the bad, and then sew it all back up. Okay, it's a fix. And then I was doing great. Then come around, I ended up developing another pressure sore on the other side. And then the infection came back. I thought I had the infection all cleared up. I was going to do nationals again. And I got 2 weeks out from the show. And it was like an instant replay all over again. I had to do another muscle flap surgery done and everything. And then so I took 2 years off. And then what was it? This last year, finally made it all the way through prep. And it's like everything since then has been like smooth sailing in a sense. Finally got my diet down right where it's not going to drain my immune system like crazy and all that. So that's a little bit of my backstory.
Well,
so
I'll tell you what. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're fine, man. Go ahead, man.
I was going to say, first of all, I want to commend you on getting sober because, as you know, and a lot of the viewers know, and nobody really wants to talk about this too much. It seems to be kind of taboo. People that struggle with alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos for you, man, for getting sober.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
It took me several tries. And, you know, a lot of times I don't like talking about it, but I think the viewers need to hear it because alcoholism is such a prevalent issue in our society. And my last drunk, basically I downed a fifth of vodka and I had a blackout. Which a lot of people don't know. That's not passing out. When you have a blackout, you're still functioning, but you don't know what you're doing. And I had another fifth of vodka in the freezer, and I apparently went and got it, and I drank it down fast as I could. And the next thing I knew, I was waking up in ICU, and I was in atrial fibrillation. They didn't know if it was going to convert back to a normal rhythm. And the doctor told me that was on a Sunday, and I did not even come conscious until on a Wednesday, which was 3 days later. He told me that my blood alcohol was a 0.527.
Woo.
Yeah, over the legal limit is .08. I was a .527. He said, you shouldn't even be alive. He said, I've seen people dead from alcohol poisoning at a .3. He said, and you were a .527. So that's just one of my stories things I had to overcome and the demons I had to battle, because you know as well as I do, once you get your legs took out from under you like that, it messes with you mentally.
Oh yeah, tremendously.
And there's still days, that's hard for me to swallow that pill, because I feel incomplete. I don't know. It's weird. But you know what? It is what it is. And I get my ass up every day and I'm sober, and I thank God for that. And I do what I do. So a lot of the guys, they see us on the stage, all they see is the finished product. They have no idea the hell is in terms of a spinal cord injury patient, the kind of shit we deal with on a daily basis. I will never forget the first day I was in rehab, and y'all know well as I do, when you first have a spinal cord injury, your urinary and your bowels are all screwed up.
That's the worst part.
So they rolled me out the first day. They rolled me out the first day in rehab, and they had me pulling on these little cords. I don't even know what it was. It was a freaking joke. And after like the first rep, I literally shit myself. And the therapist looked at me. He said, "You okay?" I said, "No, I'm not okay." I said, "I just shit myself." I said, "Take me back to my room." That was day number 1 for me in rehab. So, it's we battle a lot of things, but I often don't talk about it because complaining doesn't help. It is what it is. We do what we do.
Oh yeah, sure.
But yeah, everybody's going to have their story, especially because 95% of the wheelchair division is some kind of accident. I think I'm the only birth defect. I was born with spina bifida. I think I'm the only birth defect in the IFBB, as far as I know.
Well, Woody, that just won in Toronto.
Woody? Okay, what is he?
I believe he's a spina bifida too.
Oh, is he? Okay, I didn't know that. Okay,
I think he is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so like 95% though are some kind of accident.
Right.
Roger Espina, who won nationals in 2015, he was spina bifida. He's passed away now, but I know he had that too. But so yeah, a whole lot of our lost you guys. A whole lot of our guys are gonna have a similar story like that. Nick, right? When Nick got in his car accident. For those that don't know, Nick Scott is the promoter of the wheelchair division. He's the guy who started all of this. But he was in a car accident when he was young, and he's got the whole story of he got super fat and depressed and totally went downhill, and then he flipped the switch one day. And I don't know his story on a detailed level. I'm sure we'll have him on the show at some point, and he'll give a detailed account of his story. But he flipped the switch and said, "Hey, I want to be a bodybuilder." And now here we all are. So everybody will have, everybody can relate to what he just said,
Sure.
Well, and I know one of the things I also dealt with is at one point, and this is another subject nobody wants to talk about, very prevalent amongst our veterans, like 22, 23, 24 times a day, there's a suicide. And that's something that I almost did. And I was so far spun out psychologically. I was depressed, of course, the alcohol, and almost blew my own head off. And I wasn't even messed up about it. I was just I was on the dark side of the moon, but something just happened, and I flipped the switch, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna get my shit together. And it is what it is. Everybody can get in their little pity pot, their own self-pity party, and you get down and everything's not going the way you want it to. That can happen to anybody, and it's okay to go there, but just don't unpack your shit and stay there. Get up, keep moving. Life marches on,
Oh yeah.
And that's a huge part of what our division is about when it comes to the audience learning our stories. Is our top guys, Harold, Gabriel, Anand, all of our top guys, they look just as good as anybody else on the Olympia stage, and they all got their stories. I'm sure they had their depression. I'm sure it's They got that same type of story, but they've overcome it. And that's really what our division's about.
Oh yeah.
100%. Yep.
Is showing that. So, because a lot of people, I mean, I'm sure all of you have run into this countless times, but you run into someone else in a wheelchair, or you run into an able-bodied person and they're just really in that deep, dark hole. And I don't think I can do anything. I don't think I'm capable of doing anything, and then you got to show them like, yeah, you can do a ton of things. You can do a massive amount of things. Look at this guy, Harold. He was in a car accident and he's bigger than Arnold ever was, So like you can do a massive amount of things. Just, of course, you don't know it. I mean, I don't blame those people. I just, you feel bad for them because we see the other side of it. We see the potential that everybody has because like we're living it, we're seeing it in these guys that we compete with. But there's a lot of people out there that they've never been exposed to somebody like that who's overcome something huge, so they're just lost in their dark hole thinking my life's over because I lost my legs. And like, nah, I have a lot of friends who have a pretty badass life and they don't need legs for it,
Right.
So
I was like, telling us, like, I got a chair everywhere I go. So, we can still all do a little bit of everything.
Yep.
Well, and that's the thing. All of us guys go on to excel in a lot of other areas in our lives. Like you, Tyler, with the jiu-jitsu and all that stuff, man, just phenomenal. The things that a lot of us guys we've overcome, but still, a lot of times at the end of the day, do more than able-bodied people. James, I know cars is your big thing. You make all the cars. You wash cars, you work on them. I mean, you haven't let it slow you down.
No.
And as for myself, shit, man, I'm a pilot. I like to jump out of good airplanes. I've authored a book.
I do want to try that.
Dude, it's awesome. I highly recommend it. And I've went on to author a book, and I do motivational speaking. So it's never the end of the road just because tragedy strikes. It seems like that at the time, but I think we all probably at some point came to a fork in the road, and we had to do some soul searching and dig yourself out of that hole and realize, because every time you set out to do something that you didn't think you can do and you do it, it just instills that much more confidence in yourself. So Harold always has said this: walking is overrated. I can still get from A to B. I can do everything I've always done, within regard. So I don't let it slow me down at all. I had a gentleman ask me one day, he said, man, how are you so positive, with two bad legs? And I said, well, shit. I said, how are you so negative with two good legs?
What's the alternative?
It's yeah. I mean,
Right?
What's the alternative? Is there an alternative here that what are you talking about?
right.
Like, well, go kick life's ass or don't. I mean, do we really have an alternative?
Well, yeah, everybody can quit. Everybody can quit, but I don't recommend it.
So, it doesn't even compute to me what's the option here. Like, we weren't given an option. You guys you had your accidents and I was born into this. We weren't given an option. It's kick life's ass or don't.
Right.
And that's something that people underestimate. That's something I think people underestimate is, we always hear the inspiration thing. You're an inspiration just for opening a door by yourself. I've gotten that a bunch of times.
All the time.
Right? You're amazing because you open a fucking door by yourself. But people underestimate with themselves. They think if I was in a car accident, I don't think I would do all the things that you're doing. I couldn't do what you do. I'm like, yeah, you could if you had to. Right? Yeah. People underestimate if you get put in a situation where you absolutely have to do this, there is no plan B, you're always going to do it because you literally have to, but people don't think like that. They don't realize necessity is going to drive that. Necessity is going to drive excellence,
Well, I'll always say this, and I know it's rhetorical and everybody's heard it, but it's a true statement. And sometimes you don't know how strong you are until strong is the only option you have left.
That's what I mean. Yeah. You don't have a choice.
I didn't realize, for a lot of people, it takes them to be pushed into a corner before they ever can really truly realize what their potential is. But I always try to tell people, hey, look, don't wait till something happens to you like me or any of us guys to realize, I've had so many people tell me I can't, you can't. And they've been conditioned in their own minds. They've been conditioned to tell themselves they can't from a young age, or maybe they've been influenced by other people by saying you can't. When people always told me I couldn't, I used that as fuel for the fire. It just lit my fire. You know what I'm saying? It's like, don't tell me I can't do something. My grandmother used to say, well, you can hide and watch because I'm going to do it. I vividly remember telling my coworkers that one day I would be a professional bodybuilder. I got laughed at. I got mocked. I mean, dude, they had a field day with me, when I told them that was going to be my ultimate goal one day, was to be a professional bodybuilder. And sadly, people have to hear that all the time, you can't. And some people will listen to that, but always say this: don't listen to people telling you crap, especially if it's somebody that you wouldn't even look to for advice to begin with. Because a lot of times when people say you can't, they're talking about their own selves. They're projecting their capabilities upon you. It has nothing to do with you. So, it is a mindset. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. You can train your brain much like we train our muscles. I had to rewire my whole way of thinking after my accident.
It's like a fast thing you got to do. Otherwise, it just consume you.
Exactly. So you can rewire your brain to think the positive, because it's so easy to be negative, especially in today's time with so much negative shit going on, to get negative and be negative. And it's like Arnold said, he said, if you think you're beat before you get on the stage, then you already beat. You defeated yourself in your mind. The mind is a very powerful thing.
Yeah, it's all in the mindset, everything.
It is. It is. I don't tell myself I can't do anything. I look at something, and if I want to do it, I go, you know what? It's going to be a challenge, but I'm always up for a good challenge. So,
I think in this field that we're particularly talking about, wheelchair bodybuilding, it depends on when did you have your accident. If you just had your accident 3 months ago, then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. You can have your period of time of mourning, right? You're allowed to mourn all you want. That first year after your accident, I mean, you can mourn all you want. When it's 10 years after your accident, you're not allowed to mourn anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You don't get to do that.
There's a line there, right? There's
no more feel sorry for me.
How long do you get to do the pity party, right? There's a place for the pity party. I'm not going to tell somebody a week after their accident to shut up and get working out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's just mean.
Their grieving is part of the process. But if your grieving goes into 5, 6, 7, 8 years, now we got a problem.
Oh yeah. What's like Tori up in Canada?
Yep.
His accident was last year, and like he just kept going back right at it.
That's super impressive. That's super impressive.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
He posted a video on his Facebook the other day of just kind of like his accident. It was like a year or so ago. And I was like,
I know for me, like I said earlier, 6 months after my accident, I had regained all my upper body muscle and probably a little then some. And I was on stage in 6 months after my injury. So I didn't get on that pity party really, If I did, I just didn't stay there very long.
Yep.
Well.
But everybody's different.
Yeah, when it comes to like giving those people advice and whatever, you have to read your audience, right? If someone's they're deep in that dark hole and their accident just happened like 6 months ago, like just be a friend to them, give them a hug, just let them vent. They're still in the venting stages and the grieving stages. If someone's venting to you about their accident 5 years ago, then you, as their friend, you have more of the right to tell them, okay, shut up, go to the gym with me.
Sure.
I'm done hearing you talk about this. I'm stopping this now. You're coming to the gym with me. We're working out. You know?
Yep, I agree. There's a point there where you got to just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and suck it up, and do what you got to do. But like you said, you don't want to say that early on to somebody, because it's certainly insensitive for sure. And everybody grieves differently. Even if it's a loss of a loved one, loss of a job, it doesn't have to be an injury to the spinal cord. It can be any life altering event. People need time to recover from that, and everybody's different. But like you say, Tyler, if it's 5 years, it's kind of like a bad breakup. If my buddy's still pissing and moaning about a 5-year breakup, I'm like, dude, shut up. Come on, get on with it. It's been 5 years since that bullshit. Come on.
And now that's where, like, for an able-bodied person who has a friend who was in a major accident, it's like, yeah, be there for him for the first year, right? But if it's like 5 years down the road, at some point, you as the friend have the right to tell them to shut up and go to the gym with me. At some point, you're being a good friend by pulling them out of the hole. Like, I'm not going to enable negativity anymore. Like, I'm done listening to it. Don't be a dick, but like, challenge them. Like, one of my clients, who's also a good friend of mine, he has a buddy who just lost his ability to walk. I don't remember what it was. I don't know the guy, but we were having this conversation, and I was telling him, yeah, it hasn't been very long for his friend yet, but so still be understanding. And it's scary. And there's a lot of, when you just had your accident, you doubt yourself a lot. Like, can I climb into that big, tall truck? I don't know. And I'm kind of scared to try. Right. Stuff like that. I totally understand that. Right. So he's afraid. So don't force him to do something if he's terrified of it. But over time, over a year, 2 years, 3 years, hey, I'm going to bring the big tall truck this time. Let's see if you can get into it. I'll help you a little bit. I know you're going to be scared, but hey, I'll be right there. I'll spot you a little bit. Let's see if we can overcome this demon.
Oh, yeah. I got buddies with tall trucks, and they like to bring their truck just to see if I can get in it. Type of thing. Those are my friends. Yeah,
that's a good friend.
I'll climb the side of the door, and if they shove me in the truck, and they'll shove me almost to the other side. But hey, I'm up there.
Yeah,
but and that
in the first like 3 months, don't do that. But after like a year, 2 years, it's okay to slowly challenge your friend.
Oh yeah.
And I think another thing too is I like to surround myself with positive people. Like, I have no time for the negativity and the bullshit drama. And a good friend is going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. A good friend going to tell you, that's what I want. I want friends to call me out on my bullshit, because that's what a real friend will do. They'll call you on your shit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then that's what I've seen, like, again, with my client at the gym. He's a regular able-bodied guy, and he's asking me kind of, how do I be a good friend to this, my friend who just got hurt? And I'm sure it's uncomfortable for an able-bodied person. I don't want to be rude, but I know he can't stay in this dark hole forever. So where's the middle ground? And that's where I was telling him, like, you got to give him adequate, grieving time, just like a really bad breakup or a divorce or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're allowed to grieve, but after a while, you're not allowed to grieve anymore. So you got to find that middle ground, right? I feel us people in wheelchairs, we're probably going to cut it off with a friend a little earlier, right? Like, okay, you're allowed to grieve for 6 months. Now you got to come to the gym with me though. We'll probably be a little more pushy about it, But an able-bodied person, I'm like, give them a year,
Yeah. Well, and another thing I think to be mindful of is, a lot of people do look towards us as inspiration. So I think it's imperative for us to be very conscious of what we say, how we say it, and how we carry ourselves, because we may be the only glimpse that person gets of just a small sliver of hope. So I try to be very positive and very influential, because I know there's a lot of people that see in my content or y'all's content, and you want to come across as being a good example, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's things that's something we need to be aware of, because, I could get on social media and talk about all my problems, but what good would that do? People don't want to hear it. People won't hear it.
And this is something I would say to anybody. I would say this to an able-bodied person or someone who'd gotten an accident. And I wouldn't say this to them 3 months after the accident, but at some point, everybody on the planet, you can't view your problems as special. Right? Your problem is your problem. Your problem was horrible. Horrible thing happened to you, and something horrible has happened to everybody, right? So, but whatever your horrible thing that happened to you in your life, you can't view it as special. It's another hurdle you got to overcome to maximize the potential of your life.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's always somebody else always has it worse.
And you could find somebody who has it worse. Yeah, you do enough research, somebody else has a worse life than you, right? No matter who you are. So,
well, they say
it always be bad.
The man was crying because he had no shoes till he saw the man with no legs.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly. So just don't have your grieving process, but after you get out of your grieving process, don't view your problem as special anymore. It's a problem. How do I solve the damn problem?
Right. Work around it, adapt to it.
How do I get jacked and get as big as Harold?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Somebody tell me the secret.
I think it's fair to say Harold he has a work ethic like no other, but he's also definitely genetically inclined too. So
he's a freak. Oh yeah. He's told me I want to get him on the podcast because his background stories of when he started lifting, like he's the most genetic freak you'll ever hear about. Once he started lifting, his body just loved it, and he just blew up in his strength. And even getting into older ages, you'd think he's a 20-year-old,
Oh yeah. And that's a big thing I see in my gym where I go. Like I said earlier, I always try to set the positive tone, the positive vibe, whether it be in my workplace or at the gym. And, everybody in the gym knows, that I'm a professional wheelchair bodybuilder. And, a lot of young guys, a lot of times they come to me, for advice, or they want to know about this or know about that, and so I think it's important that we be vigilant as to the example that we're setting to others, because we're being watched, whether you want to be or not, we're being watched.
Yep,
for sure.
Definitely.
So that's something, that I take serious, and I know Nick is that way too, talking about leading by example. But where I was going with a lot of the young guys, they want to get involved in bodybuilding and they see all this stuff on IG. And I never discourage anybody from being a bodybuilder, but I also tell them, hey, look, chances are you're not going to be a Jay Cutler. You're not going to be an Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're not going to be a Ronnie Coleman. So if you think getting into bodybuilding and doing this and doing that's what's going to happen, then chances are it's probably not, because a lot of those guys are just such genetic freaks. But also tell them, you can be the best you can be. And that's where I focus, far as upon myself. I'll probably never win a Mr. Olympia, and that's okay. But at least I made it to that level and I can compete on that stage and I can bring the best package I can bring for myself.
Yep, definitely. That's the perspective you got to have.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. Because like I said earlier, it's discretional. It's at the judge's, mercy in terms of where you're going to score. But if you're bringing a better package every show, then that's winning, in my opinion. That's all you can do. And I know lately, Tyler, especially in this last year, you've made some vast improvements to your physique. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something right.
Trying to chase Harold and Gabriel, right? Somebody's got to push them.
Well, I've been doing this thing 22 years, and you would think after 22 years you would know everything there is to know. but you there's no way to possibly know everything, because once you know everything, first of all, as far as you're going to go in life, I don't care if it's working on engines or if it's trimming trees. If you think you know it all, then you're not going to go any farther. But I'm
The
gonna be
science
honest,
goes incredibly deep.
it does.
Mhm.
And I'll be honest, even after 22 years of this, I've only been at the pro level 1 year, but in that 1 year, man, I have learned so much beyond what I used to know in terms of what my body's limitations are, what I need to be doing, and what I should be doing. I'm still figuring out what works best for me.
Yep, the science goes incredibly deep, and I'm sure on future episodes we'll dive into more like training philosophies, diet philosophies, and something that this worked well for you, but it didn't work well for your buddy. Like that conversation can go forever.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that is good for this episode. Next episode, I'll tell my beginning story, and we'll see who else joins us. Hopefully, we'll get just about all the other wheelchair bodybuilders on the podcast at some point.
This is my baby. This is my baby.
And we'll have him on the podcast too.
Oh, yeah.
It's a she. It's Lucy. It's my baby. Come hi, Lucy. Look here. Come hi. Oh, she's a mess.
So we'll shoot for same time next week if it works for everybody's schedule.
Works for me.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Good talking to you guys.
All right,
brother.
See ya.
I'll see you next week.